people aren't going to talk about them because, the conditioning is, oh, this can't happen to a child of God. This can't happen. And so people are afraid to talk about it because, they're a child of God. It has happened to them. And everyone's telling them it can't happen, so they can't be a child of God. They scare people into silence. They scare people into submission of not saying a word. Keep it silent. Let's not get it out into the open. And you know what? That plays into Satan's agenda. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to expose it. The second way they infiltrate into society is indirectly through the first way. Many abduction victims are being used as breeders. When they're taken, they become part of the alien breeding program, never realizing they may have had a role in donating eggs or sperm to the alien population agenda. Some women are impregnated, watched, and the baby is taken at about age 12 weeks, and the woman has a mysterious miscarriage she can't explain, and it defies medical explanation. Some won't even know they're pregnant to begin with, and so being a baby carrier for 8 or 12 weeks isn't noticed because they take it out before you realize you were pregnant. And these babies grow up in foster homes or perhaps with the aliens and underground bases. Many women have successfully carried full-term babies that they thought were their husbands or their significant others, and it actually had an alien father, and neither one of them never even knew it. These first-generation alien hybrid children rank above normal children. They're called star children, or they don't rank at all. They just kind of sit back quietly and assimilate into society and just keep passing on the alien contamination DNA. In the days of Noah, mixed human and alien DNA was dominant. Diane mixed with miry clay, the prophet Daniel spoke of, the wheat and the tares. It was so dominant there was only one family left with pure DNA, and that was Noah's. The real reason God destroyed the earth with a flood and started over. In Genesis 6:4, he said it was going to happen. They fell before, they're going to fall again, and they did. Even today, we have generations of lineages of alien DNA mixed with our own. Most of us have some form of alien DNA and don't even know it. Human contamination of DNA is going to be dominant in the last days, and it's dominant now. I see it in the codes all the time. Most humans have no idea how far back the genealogies go, and most of them do carry some kind of polluted and contaminated DNA. That does not mean you're not a child of God. Having this alien DNA doesn't take away from the fact that you're a created soul. You're still human. You just have polluted DNA, and Yahweh already promised us he would never destroy the entire world again with a flood. In fact, the reason he comes back to destroy the world at all is because he promised he would return for those who believe in him. So if you believe in him, regardless of what kind of DNA you have, then you're Yahweh's. You're on the losing side if you don't believe in him. I mean, I know I talk to people every day that know full well the things that are coming, and they still won't believe in Yahushua. And you know what? He's our only hope. He's our only hope for, to escape what's coming, for his protection. Otherwise, you're just out there and you're going to be food for the aliens that are coming. There's many different races of the fallen angels out there. There were separate planets and nations of them before the fall. After the fall, multitudes were imprisoned inside the hollow cavities of their respective planets, while others were allowed to roam free. And these are the ones we're dealing with today, are the ones that are allowed to roam free. And what's going to happen is the Lord is going to allow the ones that have been imprisoned to come out. Now, some were in judgment forever. They cannot come out. But there's millions of others that have been in the planets unallowed to come to Earth. And he's going to allow to come to Earth because they're going to be Satan's armies, the armies of the Antichrist. I don't know how many times you're going to sit in churches or listen to prophetic gurus and they'll tell you, the EUs, the armies of the Antichrist, or NATO. Let me tell you something. Satan doesn't need human armies. He doesn't need a man, mortal men or women that can die when he's got his own. And he's much more effective than any human can be. His own can't die. While factions of alien groups have been busy with breeding programs, others have been busy infiltrating our governments and secret societies, and the reptilians are the most notorious and well-known among the bloodline families, who, after all, have their bloodlines linked directly to them. The bloodline families are the ones running the factions 1 and 2 of the New World Order, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. These are the Moravian bloodlines as well. You look at the UK lineage, all of the queens and the kings and all the Moravian bloodline, they're hybrids. They're hybrid lines. And when Princess Diana came and she gave birth to William, she was the first one to give a real legitimate lineage to that throne because her lineage was pure back to the tribe of David. She was the only one with real royal DNA. The ones that are there now, Prince Charles and the Queen, do not have legitimate royal bloodlines. They're Moravians. And Princess Diana legitimized that throne, and with William, and that's why he probably, the whole thing was set up for him to marry her, so William would have some kind of legitimate bloodline. We know Charles doesn't, and the Queen. So when you look at these Illuminati bloodlines, and you know, it's pretty much like the Edomites of the Jews that came back. The Edomites were hybrids. They weren't pure Jews. They mixed in with the Jews that the Lord had told them not. You know, one of those strict requirements he had was for no intermarriage because he didn't want the DNA tampered with. It wasn't because somebody has a different race or a different skin color or speaks a different language than you. It was because there were so many hybrid races back then. He was trying to protect the Israelite DNA bloodlines. And you can see that didn't happen, and today, you know, this is rampant. We also know that, you know, the Illuminati are the ones protecting the reptilians through blood drinking and ritual. Most of these families are well steeped in Satan worship. And what they do is pretty much like reptilians. When you become a demon-possessed person, where a demon can just enter you and take over your body, the same thing with these bloodlines. What they do is they do constant blood drinking and rituals, and they invite reptilians to come in and host their bodies. And these reptilians are secondary to Satan's branch, which are the draconians. They're lizards, and they're the ones who are running the governments of the world through all these people. As you know, the only way I can describe it is they're possessed people. Instead of being possessed with demons, they're possessed with reptilians, and these reptilians in turn will think for them, work through them. It's like a walk-in, a soul walk-in. They replace that person and become that person in power. And if you've read some of these books, Transformation of America, a good book online to read, Kathy O'Brien, she describes, when she was a MK Ultra sex slave for the government, she describes being at Washington parties and seeing, congressmen and politicians shapeshift into lizards. And some people don't understand where this whole shapeshift thing comes about. If you look at our cartoons on Saturday mornings, if you don't know what's going on, watch the cartoons where they're trying to condition and brainwash your children into things. Because when you look at the Mighty Morphin Rangers and all these little different animals, or children being allowed to shapeshift into animals, shapeshifting is just another term for transformation, for transforming. And the Bible tells us that Satan will transform into an angel of light. He can also transform into a human. He can also transform into anything he wants to. Transforming is from the word morph. And so that's where you get morphing. That's where you get shape-shifting. They're all terms are related to the same thing, that they can transform into whatever they want to. So Satan can appear as a human. He can appear as the dragon he is, which he's not going to. But he can possess people the same way as these lizards do, human possession, where instead of being just possessed with demons, you're possessed with a reptilian. And before the break here, I've got about 2 minutes before break, unless he cuts me off a little bit early. The difference between demons and fallen angels is this. In Enoch, he states that the demons were the spirits of the dead Nephilim. They were the spirits of the children of the hybrids. What were they? When these hybrids died, they were, half alien, half human. And probably more so alien, but at that point, they weren't judged. They were just allowed to roam the earth. And the spirits of the children of the dead Nephilim, fallen angels, are the ones who lost their looks after the rebellion. They were judged harshly. They were cast out of heaven. Part of their judgment was to lose their angelic looks. And so with the many different angel nations that were amongst the planets, even back then in pre-Adamic times, now what we have is a multinational, alien mixture of different looking types of aliens, because they all lost their original looks. So you'll have humanoids. We'll get into the humanoid races here after the break. But meanwhile, you have the reptilians, you have the draconians, but I'm going to get into a bunch of other different races here after the break. But, there's not one set. The Bigfoot, he's part of the whole clan. We've seen, people have seen Bigfoot wandering around. There's all different kinds of aliens. Some look grotesque, some look like animals. Most of them look like, they're scaly or they're hairy. Some are very tall, some are very short. Outside the races, they're very different. The races don't necessarily get along. This is Satan's kingdom. Remember, nobody gets along in Satan's kingdom. They all hate each other and fight and war amongst each other as well. He's not omniscient. He's not omnipresent. He can't control all of them like God can control, and speak to every one of his people at one time. Satan has, he has to count on his generals and his ranks of soldiers and his own armies to keep his kingdom under order, because he doesn't have the power as God does. He just wants to be God.